This post has been bugging me since I saw it like 2 weeks ago. And I think there's a misunderstanding of who decides how things are made. I think there's kind of a shallow view of modern architecture because there's so much more happening in these buildings than the person is leading you to believe. I could talk about all kinds of things, but I'm going to focus on the two buildings that you see there and why they're awesome and why the picture that you're being posed isn't telling you the whole story. Is classical architecture cool? Yes, but there's something even better happening in those buildings, and I'm going to explain why right now. The first one I always refer to as the Rare Book Library, which ought to tell you something about it. Its real name is the Beinecke Library, if I'm pronouncing it right. It's on the Yale campus. It's probably the third best modern architecture on that campus, but it's a gem. It's an absolute gem, and I'm going to explain why. When you look at the picture, you see this monolithic, windowless building, and I told you it's Rare Book Library. When you walk inside, you see what's really happening. That blank wall is actually giant marble slabs, I don't know, 1 or 2 inches thick, that looks just like a white wall when you're on the outside. But when you go inside on a sunny day, like in that photo, there's this gorgeous amber glow, and the whole space is just really, I can't describe it. It's this kind of eeriness to it. It's and so they solved the problem of housing rare books and giving you natural light. And now you're seeing the marble in a way that you've probably never seen it before, with natural sunlight coming through it, showing you the veining. And that's what can be really cool about modern architecture that you don't get with classical architecture. In classical architecture, you have storytelling through ornament. It's giving you pictures and stories and telling you something, like stained glass is telling you the story of the Bible through pictures. And that's great, but it's typically a decorated box. And that's what it is, compared to something which is revealing the nature of something, and showing you the nature of something in a way that you've never seen before. And that, I think, is a kind of authenticity that you get with great modern architecture that we don't see so much with classical architecture. There's generations of Yale alumni who studied the classics. Are any of you watching this? If you are, tell me what you thought. You spent hours and hours, days and days in that building. What did you think of it? The second is somebody near and dear to me, Adolf Loos. And I spent the first semester of the first year of architecture drawing and redrawing his Villa Mueller. And so I know it very well. And it's kind of insulting to put this quote about how architects are always trying to do things cheaply, which who in the hell ever says that about architects? But it's totally missing the point of that building. Yes, he wrote a book called Ornament and Crime, and we're going to get to that in a second. But sometimes when you have a building that doesn't show you everything on the outside, they're revealing things differently on the inside. And Villa Mueller, or a lot of Loos's work, is like that. And that could be a culture of Vienna at the time, where maybe people were more reserved and didn't want people seeing what their house, revealing everything about their house from the outside. And you see that in medieval architecture too. If you walk through Florence or Barcelona, you're seeing all these solid stone walls. You have no idea what's going on the inside. And the same thing is happening in Loos's buildings. And when I studied that house a long time ago, all I saw was blurry black and white photos of what it looked like on the inside. You can look at it now and see that it was nothing like what is being portrayed as cheap or just as basic as possible. I mean, you could say that about a builder's house. Like they could have easily just taken a Toll Brothers house, sorry guys, or any of these mega builders, and be like, they're building for their production, not for the consumer's enjoyment. That's what it is. Ornament and Crime. So he wrote a book called Ornament and Crime, which makes you think, well, is everything ornamental a crime? Is that what this guy is trying to say? A little bit yes and no, but why he's saying it is a crime, you might appreciate when you understand that 100 years ago in Vienna, he was complaining that trends were happening so fast and moving so fast that people were throwing out good furniture to buy new stuff that was more in style. And he thought that waste was a crime. Okay. And so he said, if you can design something that's beautiful and functional without ornament and have its own inner beauty, that is a better thing to do than to make something ornamental that gets wasted or thrown away because it goes out of style in a few years. He was saying 10 years, maybe now you'd say 2 years. One more thing, when people say something is ugly, do you know that there's this famous fashion designer, 101 Dalmatians, Devil Wears Prada, Anna Wintour, I think it was Anna Wintour, who said she could see where the next thing is coming because everybody calls it ugly. Every architectural era has a name that meant ugly when it was named. Brutalist, Rococo, all of them from hundreds of years ago to modern doesn't really, but even modern, a lot of people use in kind of a derogatory way. Anyway, that's a whole other thing, a whole other topic. If you're interested in that, just type ugly and we could talk about it more. But in the meantime, send this to whoever sent you that video and let's talk about the real stuff.